Rain drummed softly against the thin window glass of Leah's apartment, a quiet, unrelenting rhythm that matched the weight in her chest. The small room smelled faintly of burnt coffee and dust, remnants of mornings that had started with hope and ended in silence. A single candle flickered on the cluttered table beside her, casting uneven light over a worn-out Bible, unopened bills, and a photo frame turned face down. It had been 3 years since everything began to fall apart. First came the layoff from the company where she had worked for nearly a decade. Then her fiancé's sudden decision to take a break. And finally, the slow disconnection from friends who promised to check in, but never did. Each loss had carved out another hollow space inside her, until she felt like an echo of the woman she once was. Now, as she sat staring at the dancing flame, Leah whispered into the quiet, "God, do you even hear me anymore?" Her voice trembled, barely audible over the rain. She used to pray with conviction, her heart full of certainty that heaven listened. But lately, her prayers had become weary, like messages sent into an empty sky. "Please, just show me something," she murmured, closing her eyes. "A sign, anything." The only response was the whisper of wind brushing against the windowpane. She let out a broken sigh and rubbed her hands over her face. Every sermon she'd heard told her to trust God's timing. Every quote she read online reminded her that faith grows in the waiting. But what if the waiting had no end? What if the silence wasn't sacred, just empty? She opened her Bible to the Psalms, her eyes falling on words she'd read 100 times. "Those who sow in tears will reap in joy." But even those words felt distant now, like a promise meant for someone else. The power flickered once, twice, then went out completely. Darkness enveloped her. She reached for her candle, shielding its flame with her palm. The room glowed softly, the golden light trembling like her heart. Outside, thunder rolled, deep, resonant, almost like a voice. Leah froze. For a moment, something in her spirit stirred. It wasn't fear exactly, more like awareness. A gentle pressure in the air, as though someone unseen stood beside her. She whispered again, "God." Nothing. And yet, something. A stillness deeper than silence. That night, exhaustion finally pulled her under, her head resting on the table beside the candle. She dreamt vividly, so vividly that when she opened her eyes, she wasn't sure if she was awake or still asleep. She found herself standing barefoot on a narrow bridge stretching across a roaring, black river. The air was cold and heavy with mist. The bridge beneath her feet was made of rough wood, creaking under each cautious step. Ahead, the path disappeared into a dense fog that swallowed everything beyond it. Her breath quickened. "Hello," she called out, her voice echoing into the unseen. "Is anyone there?" Only the sound of the rushing water answered. She turned back, but behind her was only darkness. No way back, only forward. Fear gripped her. She wrapped her arms around herself, whispering, "God, I'm scared. Where am I?" And then, light. It began faintly, like dawn behind clouds, but grew stronger until the mist itself seemed to glow. The air shimmered, and from within that golden haze came a voice. Not loud, not harsh, but so clear that it seemed to vibrate through her very soul. "Leah," it said, every syllable wrapped in love. She gasped, tears welling in her eyes. Who are you?" "I am the one who has walked beside you when you thought you were alone," the voice replied. "The one who heard every prayer, even when you thought they vanished into the dark." Her knees weakened. She fell to the wooden planks, tears spilling freely now. "Then why has it been so hard? Why does it feel like nothing ever changes?" The golden mist pulsed, like a heartbeat. "Because I was changing you first." The words struck her heart like lightning. She wanted to speak, to ask more, but the voice continued gently. "Your unseen journey is about to shift. You have walked through a valley where no one saw the work I was doing. You mistook stillness for absence, but I was planting deep roots beneath the soil of your life. What felt like delay was divine design." She covered her face, sobbing softly. "But I lost so much. My job, my family, my joy, what was it all for?" "Not loss," the voice answered, "but pruning. You could not carry certain things into what I am preparing. You thought I was taking from you, but I was making room, for better, greater, higher." The bridge trembled beneath her as the mist began to swirl, forming images, memories from her past. The night she cried over a rejection letter. The moment she packed her boxes after being laid off. The evening she sat alone on her birthday, blowing out a candle just to feel something. Each memory glowed faintly, wrapped in the same golden light. Every tear you shed, the voice whispered, watered the ground for what is coming. I saw it all. I never left. Leah's heart raced. The river below grew calmer, its once dark waves turning to crystal light. But I don't know what to do, she said quietly. I don't know how to move forward anymore. You don't need to see the whole path, came the reply. Just take one step, and trust that I am already there. The shift does not come by your striving, but by my timing. And then, before she could respond, a warm wind swept across the bridge. The fog began to part, revealing a faint horizon, golden and vast, full of promise. Leah felt something inside her break open, like the first crack of dawn in a long night. The voice faded, but one final phrase lingered in the air, echoing softly. Greater than, walk by faith, not by sight. The unseen has already begun to move. Leah gasped and opened her eyes. Morning sunlight spilled across her table. The candle had long burned out, its wax hardened like a white river. Her heart was pounding, her hands trembling, but there was peace. A deep, anchored peace that didn't make sense. She sat still for several minutes, whispering over and over, the unseen is shifting, the unseen is shifting. Outside, the rain had stopped. A single ray of sunlight broke through the clouds, landing directly on her Bible. The verse she had read the night before caught her eye again, those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. And for the first time in years, Leah believed it. In the days that followed, nothing drastic changed on the outside, yet everything felt different within her. The fear that used to grip her in the mornings began to fade. She started each day with a quiet prayer, not for answers, but for trust. Then, one afternoon, her phone buzzed. A number she didn't recognize. Hello, Leah, a woman's voice said on the other end. I'm calling from Haven Works. We came across your old resume and wanted to invite you for an interview. Are you still looking for a position? Leah froze. Haven Works, the same company she had applied to nearly 6 months ago, and never heard back from. Her voice shook as she answered, yes, I am. After hanging up, she sat in silence, tears streaming down her cheeks. It wasn't just about the job. It was about timing, about how God moved unseen, until the moment everything aligned. She looked toward her window again. The light was different now, not harsh or dim, but warm, alive, full of promise. And deep in her spirit, she knew. The bridge in her dream wasn't just a dream. It was her journey, and it had already begun to shift. A month later, the woman who once wept beside a candle stood before her mirror with quiet strength in her eyes. Leah smoothed the sleeves of her navy blazer, inhaling deeply as if drawing in courage from the very air. The reflection that stared back wasn't the same broken soul who had begged for a sign from God. This woman was calm, steady, still uncertain about many things, yet deeply anchored in faith. She smiled faintly. You really did it, Lord, she whispered. Her new job at Haven Works felt like more than employment, it felt like restoration. Every morning, as she walked into the glass building bathed in sunlight, she carried that quiet dream inside her. The bridge, the fog, and the golden light. Some part of her knew the voice from that vision was still guiding her. On her first day, her manager, a kind woman named Elise, had smiled warmly and said, "You were exactly what we were looking for. I don't even know how your application got overlooked earlier, but I'm glad it did." The timing worked out perfectly. Those words had struck Leah so deeply she nearly cried. The timing worked out perfectly. It echoed the very message God had spoken. Not by your striving, but by my timing. The work itself wasn't easy. The company was in the middle of restructuring, and Leah often found herself staying late, organizing files and managing new projects. Yet, unlike before, she didn't feel drained. She felt purposed. It was as though every task, even the smallest, carried meaning. One late evening, when most of the office had gone quiet, she was reviewing reports when Elise appeared at her door. "You're still here," Elise smiled, leaning against the frame. "You'll make the rest of us look bad." Leah chuckled softly. "Just finishing up this presentation for tomorrow." Elise stepped closer, her tone shifting to something more thoughtful. You know, we've been planning to partner with a local community outreach group. They help people rebuild after financial loss. The director's coming by tomorrow to discuss the proposal. You might enjoy hearing what they're doing. It's the kind of thing that aligns with your spirit. My spirit? Leah asked, a little surprised. Elise nodded. You have this piece about you. It's rare. Most people in the corporate world are rushing, anxious. But you bring calm wherever you go. Leah didn't know what to say. She only smiled softly, whispering in her heart, it's you, Lord. They're seeing you. The next day, the director arrived, a middle-aged man named Pastor Nathan. He had kind eyes and spoke with the gentle authority of someone who had weathered many storms but never lost his compassion. As he explained his outreach program, Leah felt something stir in her chest. The stories he shared mirrored her own. People who had lost everything, only to discover new purpose through faith. After the meeting, Pastor Nathan approached her personally. You know, Miss Leah, he said with a smile, you look familiar. Have we met before? Leah shook her head. I don't think so. Well, he chuckled, maybe I just recognize the look in your eyes, the look of someone who's walked through a storm and found light on the other side. For some reason, those words made her throat tighten. She wanted to tell him everything, about her dream, the voice, the unseen shift, but she only nodded, holding back tears. Over the next few weeks, Leah began volunteering at the pastor's community center on weekends. She would help organize food drives, mentor women trying to rebuild their lives, and listen to their stories. Each time she spoke to them, she found herself sharing small pieces of her own journey, not the pain, but the transformation. I used to think God was silent, she told one woman softly as they packed boxes together. But he wasn't. He was working behind the scenes, even when I couldn't see it. The hardest seasons are often the ones where he's building something in us. The woman, whose eyes were swollen from crying, looked up slowly. You really believe that? Leah smiled, tears shimmering in her own eyes. I don't just believe it. I lived it. That night, driving home under a cloudy sky, Leah felt a peace so tangible it was almost physical. She rolled down her window, letting the wind wash over her. Every gust carried whispers, like God reminding her, this is what the shift was for. But the real test of her faith came a few weeks later. One morning, she received a call from her mother, whom she hadn't spoken to much since her father's passing. Their relationship had been distant, strained by misunderstandings and years of unspoken hurt. Leah, her mother said hesitantly, I've been meaning to tell you something. I found some of your father's old journals. He used to write about you, about how proud he was. I think you should come see them. Leah froze. Her father had died believing she had disappointed him by quitting her corporate job years ago. To learn that he'd written otherwise, that he had loved her all along, felt like another divine restoration, another unseen thread God had been weaving quietly through her story. When she visited her mother that weekend, they sat together in the living room, awkward at first, but then something softened between them. They read the journals aloud, lines written in her father's shaky handwriting. Greater than, Leah has always had a light about her. I pray she never loses it, even when life tries to dim it. Tears blurred her vision. Her mother reached for her hand and whispered, I think that light is shining again, Leah. I see it. That evening, as Leah drove home, rain began to fall. Not a storm, just a gentle drizzle that shimmered under the streetlights. She thought of the first time she had cried under rain, feeling forgotten. Now, the same rain felt different, like a blessing. When she reached her apartment, something caught her eye. An envelope on the floor, slipped under her door. No return address, just her name in neat handwriting. She hesitated before opening it. Inside was a simple note on ivory paper. Greater than, Leah, the shift you felt was not just for you. It was the beginning of something bigger. Through your story, others will find faith in the unseen. Keep walking, keep shining. Gee, her breath caught. The same warmth from her dream, that same golden peace, filled the room. She pressed the note to her heart, tears falling silently. It wasn't the handwriting of anyone she knew. But she didn't need to guess. She knew. That night, Leah sat by her window, watching the rain trickle down the glass. She whispered softly, You really were there all along. The city outside was quiet, the street lamps casting halos of gold on the wet pavement. She realized that her journey had never been about getting a job or fixing her circumstances. It was about transformation, the invisible shift that happens when a soul learns to trust again. And in that stillness, God spoke once more, not through thunder or dreams, but deep in her heart. Greater than, "See, Leah, I make all things new." The unseen journey was never to break you, it was to build you. She smiled, closing her eyes. "I understand now," she whispered. From that night onward, Leah lived differently. She no longer chased signs, she became one. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, every prayer she whispered for others became a living testimony of what God could do in the unseen. Because the greatest shift wasn't in her life, it was in her spirit. And as dawn crept over the horizon, bathing her apartment in soft light, Leah whispered the same words she had spoken in her dream. "Walk by faith, not by sight." This time, it wasn't a plea, it was a promise.